Messy with motion and getting some money. How about that?
The next day.
Tia sound like she disappointed in our relationship.
It started as a sentence. One shady little sentence that should have floated by like every other internet insult. But instead, it detonated. Because when Tia Kemp said Blueface's mom Karlissa has no friends, the internet didn't just listen, it leaned in like it smelled gasoline. And Karlissa, oh, she did not take that lightly. This wasn't a quiet misunderstanding. This wasn't a passive-aggressive subtweet. This was a line drawn in digital concrete. And within hours, Karlissa fired back with the kind of energy that says, "You picked the wrong one today." Calm at first, sharp underneath. The kind of response that sounds polite until you realize it's surgical. Fans froze mid-scroll. Comment sections ignited. Group chats woke back up from the dead. Because suddenly, this wasn't just about friendship, it was about reputation, respect, and who really holds power in this never-ending circus. And let's be honest, this drama makes reality TV feuds look like PTA meetings. Everyone suddenly had an opinion, everyone picked a side, and everyone acted like they'd been waiting years for these two names to collide. What made it even messier? Receipts started appearing. Old clips resurfaced. Stories got riddled with new spice. And the internet did what it does best, turn a comment into a full-blown character trial. This wasn't about friends anymore. This was about image. And Karlissa was not about to let hers get dragged without swinging back. This whole mess didn't start with a fight. It didn't start with a rant, a live, or a viral meltdown. It started with a sentence that was short, sharp, and disrespectful enough to stick. When Tia Kemp casually claimed that Blueface's mom, Karlissa, has no friends, it wasn't just shade, it was character assassination in under 5 words. And the internet did what it always does when blood hits the water. It circled. At first, people laughed. They treated it like another throwaway insult in a never-ending carousel of celebrity-side drama. But that laugh didn't last long because Karlissa didn't brush it off. She didn't ignore it. She didn't pretend she didn't see it. Instead, she responded with that dangerous mix of composure and confidence that tells you someone is offended and not flustered. And that's when things got uncomfortable. Karlissa's response wasn't loud, but it was pointed. Not a scream, more like a scalpel. She made it clear that she wasn't about to let her name be reduced to a punchline, especially by someone who wasn't exactly known for spotless credibility. The tone said everything. You can talk, but you won't talk unchecked. The internet felt that shift immediately. Suddenly, this wasn't just Tia Kemp running her mouth. This was Blueface's mom stepping into the arena, defending not just her social circle, but her image. And when a mother with years of internet exposure decides to clap back, it never stays small. Fans rushed to pick sides like it was mandatory. Some said Tia was just saying what everyone thinks. Others claimed Karlissa was being unfairly dragged into drama she didn't start. Neutral viewers pretended to be neutral while secretly refreshing every 5 seconds, hoping for more. And of course, the receipts started loading. Old clips of Karlissa talking online resurfaced instantly. People dug through interviews, lives, and comments like archaeologists desperate to prove a theory. Every laugh was analyzed. Every pause became suspicious. People started asking questions nobody asked before. Who really stands by Karlissa? Who shows up when cameras are off? Who benefits from her name being dragged? That's when the conversation turned darker. Because no friends isn't just an insult. It's a narrative. It implies isolation. It suggests something is wrong with you. It frames you as the problem in every room you enter. And the internet loves that kind of framing, especially when it involves a woman who already lives in controversy's shadow. Karlissa clearly understood that. Her response wasn't about listing names or posting group photos. It was about refusing the label entirely. She spoke with the energy of someone who's tired of being turned into a storyline instead of a person. Someone who's watched people weaponize perception and decided today wasn't the day to stay quiet. And that's what made it hit harder. Tia Kemp didn't just insult Karlissa. She poked at the one thing the internet uses to measure worth: social validation, friends, support, community, and by doing that, she opened a door that couldn't be closed once Karlissa walked through it. The comment sections exploded. Some users doubled down, claiming that if Karlissa had real friends, they'd see them more. Others clapped back hard, saying not everyone lives their life on Instagram like a cast member on a reality show. A few pointed out the irony of internet personalities judging friendship while arguing with strangers online, but the damage was already in motion. What made this moment especially messy was the history. Karlissa isn't new to being criticized. She's been dragged, mocked, praised, and dissected for years because of her proximity to Blueface. People already had opinions locked and loaded. This comment just gave them permission to reuse them. And Tia Kemp knew exactly what she was doing. That's the part people don't want to admit. Insults like that aren't accidental. They're designed to sting without crossing legal lines, short enough to go viral, big enough to dodge responsibility, sharp enough to force a response. Karlissa took the bait, but she didn't swallow it quietly. Her clapback sent a message that echoed beyond this one situation. It said, "I won't let you narrate my life." And the internet hates when someone tries to take control of their own narrative, because chaos is more entertaining when it's one-sided. More reactions poured in. Some creators framed Karlissa as defensive. Others called her strong. A few labeled her bothered, which is internet shorthand for how dare you respond to disrespect. Suddenly, the debate wasn't about whether the comment was wrong, it was about whether Karlissa had the right to be offended. That's how you know a situation has turned toxic. People stopped asking if the insult crossed a line and started asking why she reacted at all. Accountability flipped directions. And the more Karlissa stood her ground, the more people projected onto her. Meanwhile, Tia Kemp's name stayed in the mix, but the focus subtly shifted. This was no longer about what she said, it was about how Karlissa handled it. That's how narratives get hijacked. The instigator fades into the background while the responder becomes the main character. And Karlissa became exactly that. The story grew legs. Blog pages picked it up, reaction channels broke it down, commentators dissected tone, word choice, facial expressions, everything except the disrespect that started it all. That's the internet's favorite trick. What began as a shady comment evolved into a full-blown debate about loyalty, loneliness, and reputation. And Karlissa's name was now glued to it whether she liked it or not. By the end of the first wave, one thing was obvious. This wasn't just a clapback moment. It was a collision of egos, history, and perception. And once that collision happens, the fallout never stays contained. Once Karlissa's response landed, the situation didn't cool off, it mutated. This is the phase where drama stops being a moment and turns into a movement. The internet didn't just react, it reorganized itself around the argument. Camps formed, timelines split. And suddenly everyone had a doctorate in friendship dynamics and celebrity psychology. The reactions came in layers. First were the vague posts from people who never say names but always mean them. You know the ones. Some people confuse being loud with being loved. Loneliness shows up in different ways. Posts that pretend to be motivational quotes but feel suspiciously like drive-by shots. No tags, no context. Maximum mess. Then came the commentary channels. Every mic within reach suddenly had a take. Some framed Karlissa's response as defensive energy, as if defending yourself from disrespect is a personality flaw. Others applauded her composure, calling it a grown response to a childish jab. A few tried to play Switzerland and ended up lighting fires on both sides. And then the memes arrived, and that's when things went left. At first, the jokes were light, side by sides. Eye-roll captions, but they turned mean fast. Screenshots of Karlissa speaking in old videos were captioned with sarcasm. Moments that had nothing to do with friendship were suddenly re-edited to fit the narrative. The internet doesn't wait for relevance. It forces it. What really escalated everything was how the insult evolved. No friend stopped being a comment and became a diagnosis. People started theorizing maybe she pushes people away. Maybe she's the common denominator. Maybe she thrives on conflict. Suddenly, a single sentence was being treated like a psychological profile. And here's the wild part, none of these people knew her. But that never stopped the internet before. Supporters tried to step in, but even their defenses came with qualifiers. She's not perfect, but I don't agree with everything she does. However, that language matters. It shows hesitation. And hesitation is blood in the water. Meanwhile, Tia Kemp's original comment kept getting replayed, reposted, and reframed. Some treated it like truth-telling, others like cruelty disguised as honesty. But either way, it had achieved its goal. It stuck. People were arguing about it days later like it had just happened. And Karlissa stayed active. Not frantic, not spiraling, present, measured. That alone bothered people. The internet prefers its targets either completely silent or fully unhinged. Calm confidence ruins the script. So critics shifted strategies. Instead of attacking her directly, they questioned her credibility. Her credibility. Why is she always online? Why does she care what people think? Why respond at all? Suddenly, reacting to an insult became the real offense. That's how accountability gets flipped upside down. The irony, everyone commenting was doing the exact same thing, just louder. Pop culture comparisons flew around like confetti. People said this was reality TV anti-drama with Shakespearean levels of pettiness. Others joked it was giving Real Housewives reunion energy. Without the paycheck, someone said it made celebrity beefs look like playground arguments. The laughs were there, but so was the bite. The situation even dragged Blueface back into conversations he wasn't part of. That's how messy things get when family is involved. His name became a reference point. His past drama was pulled back. Up suddenly, Karlissa wasn't just defending herself, she was carrying years of internet baggage that had nothing to do with this comment. That's when things got unfair. Every negative moment from the past was reintroduced as context. Context is useful when it's honest. Here, it was weaponized. People weren't asking if the no friends claim was true. They were saying, given everything else, it makes sense. And that sentence is the internet's favorite shortcut to judgment. The outrage hit its peak when people started dragging real-life consequences into it, saying things like, "This is why people don't mess with her," as if they had access to her personal phone contacts, as if friendships only count when they're public, tagged, and documented. That's the sickness of online culture. If it's not posted, it didn't happen. Karlissa's supporters pushed back harder at this stage. They called out the double standard. They pointed out how men say worse things and get laughs, while women defend themselves and get labeled emotional. They highlighted how being outspoken gets confused with being isolated. Those arguments gained traction, but they didn't erase the stain, because by now, the story wasn't about right or wrong. It was about momentum, and momentum online is ruthless. It carries stories forward even when they stop making sense. The biggest twist, people stop talking about Tia Kemp altogether. That's when you know the narrative has flipped. The instigator fades. The responder becomes the spectacle. Karlissa was now the headline, the thumbnail, the debate topic. Tia's role shrank to the one who said it, while Karlissa became the one being judged. That's not an accident. That's how virality works. And as the second wave crested, a quiet realization settled in. This wasn't going to resolve itself with one response or one clapback. Too many egos were invested now. Too many opinions had been formed. Too many people had used this moment to project their own issues onto someone else. The drama had officially outgrown the insult. It wasn't about friendship anymore. It was about image, power, and who gets to define someone's worth in public. And once those questions enter the chat, things never go back to normal. By the time the noise should have died down, it didn't. It settled. And that's always worse. Loud drama burns fast, but quiet judgment lingers like smoke in your clothes days later. This is the phase where the internet stops reacting and starts deciding. And for Karlissa, that's where the real consequences crept in, the conversation shifted from did Tia Kemp cross a line to what does this say about Karlissa? That's a dangerous pivot. Because once people start psychoanalyzing instead of responding, you're no longer in a debate, you're on trial. And trials don't care about fairness. They care about narratives that feel neat. Suddenly, Karlissa's entire online presence was being reevaluated through one lazy insult. Every post was proof. Every clapback was confirmation. Every moment of confidence was rebranded as insecurity. It didn't matter how composed she stayed. Composure became suspicious. Silence became strategic. Speaking became defensive. She couldn't win because the rules had already been rewritten. That's when the isolation narrative really tried to lock in. People began saying things like, "I've never seen her with anyone." As if adulthood requires group selfies too. Validate relationships. Others claimed if you have friends, you don't need to say it, ignoring the fact that she was responding to disrespect, not running a PR campaign. Logic took a back seat. Vibes were driving. What hurt the most wasn't the trolls, it was the shift in tone from casual observers. The ones who weren't invested enough to defend her, but interested enough to judge. That lukewarm judgment is lethal. It spreads quietly. It sounds reasonable, and it sticks. And yet, something interesting happened. As the days passed, the outrage stopped escalating. It plateaued, the same arguments recycled, the same jokes repeated, and repetition does one thing: it dulls impact. People who had gone hard at first started moving on. Not apologizing, just losing interest. That's when perspective crept back in. Some viewers started asking why a grown woman's social circle had become public property. Others pointed out how bizarre it was that no friends had turned into a defining accusation, in a space where most people don't even trust their group chats. A few even admitted the insult said more about the person who said it than the person it targeted. Those voices weren't loud, but they were there. Karlissa, for her part, didn't spiral. She didn't escalate. She didn't turn the situation into a full-blown internet war. That restraint confused people. The internet expects retaliation or collapse. When neither happens, it doesn't know where to point its pitchforks. And slowly, subtly, the narrative loosened. Not flipped, not redeemed, just questioned. Because the truth is, the no friends accusation was always flimsy. It relied on assumption, on projection, on the idea that proximity equals value. And the longer people sat with it, the more it felt hollow, mean but hollow. That didn't erase the damage. Reputations don't bounce back overnight, but it did change the temperature. The story stopped growing. And in internet terms, that's survival. The real aftermath wasn't visible in headlines. It showed up in how people spoke. Less certainty. More maybe. Less pylon energy. More eye rolls at how far the conversation had gone. Karlissa didn't come out untouched, but she didn't come out broken either. And that's the twist nobody predicted. Because the internet loves to reduce people to labels: loud, messy, lonely, defensive. But labels only stick when the person lets them define the next chapter. Karlissa didn't feed it. She didn't beg for validation. She didn't perform friendship to prove a point. She let the moment pass. And in a culture that thrives on constant reaction, that's its own form of power. Meanwhile, Tia Kemp's comment faded into what it always was: a jab, a moment of shade. That went further than intended. Not a revelation, not a truth bomb, just a sentence that caught fire because the internet was bored and hungry. That's how these things usually end. Not with an explosion, but with exhaustion. But don't get it twisted. This wasn't meaningless. Moments like this leave residue. They shift how people see you. They change how quickly judgment comes next time. Karlissa now carries a narrative she didn't ask for, and that's the tax of being public. The real cliffhanger isn't about friendship. It's about what happens the next time her name trends. Because now, the internet thinks it knows her. And when the internet thinks it knows you, it waits, it watches, it looks for confirmation. And this right here is why the internet never lets a comment stay small. One sentence turns into a storyline, one jab turns into a judgment, and suddenly, everyone's an expert on someone else's life. If you thought this was just shade, you missed the real show. This was about image, power, and who gets to define somebody in public. Now it's your turn. Was Tia Kemp just being messy? For attention? Or did Karlissa prove you don't need a crowd to stand firm? Was this a harmless diss, or a calculated attempt to stick a label and let the internet do the rest? Drop your take in the comments. Because the real debates don't happen on timelines, they happen right down there. And you'll never disappoint if this breakdown had you locked in. Smash that like button like it owes you money. Hit subscribe like you're claiming your seat before the next drama drops unannounced. And turn on notifications because around here, chaos doesn't send invitations, it just shows up. This channel isn't about fake outrage or recycled headlines. We break down motives. We expose narrative flips. We call out how fast the internet turns opinions into verdicts while others chase the moment. We explain why the moment even mattered. Let's be real, celebrity drama never stops. It just changes faces, names, and excuses. And if you're not paying attention, you end up believing the loudest version instead of the smartest one. So stay locked in. Stay skeptical. Keep your popcorn and your receipts ready. Because the next comment, the next clapback, the next "I didn't mean it like that" moment is already loading, and when it hits, you already know where to be. This is Celeb SYNC, where the drama doesn't just trend, it connects. It connects.